Staying focused is essential for getting projects done. Saying no is essential for staying focused. At the outset, will the project have the people and funds, including contingencies, needed to succeed? If not, walk away. Does an action contribute to achieving the goal in the box on the right? If not, skip it. Say no to monuments, no to untested technology, no to lawsuits, and so on. This can be difficult, particularly if your organization embraces a bias for action, but saying no is essential for the success of a project and an organization. I'm actually as proud of the things we haven't done as the things we have done, Steve Jobs once observed. The things not done helped Apple stay focused on a few products that became wildly successful because of that focus, according to Jobs. 10+ deep lessons from the book, How Big Things Get Done. Number 1. How do we get a project done as quickly as possible? The obvious answer, and certainly the most common one, is to set severe timelines, get started right away, and demand that everyone involved work at a furious pace. Drive and ambition are key, goes the conventional wisdom. If experienced observers think a project will take 2 years, say you will do it in 1. Commit to the project, heart and soul, and charge ahead. And in managing others, be fierce. Demand that everything be done yesterday. Number 2. To understand the right way to get a project done quickly, it's useful to think of a project as being divided into 2 phases. This is a simplification, but it works. First, planning. Second, delivery. The terminology varies by industry. In movies, it's development and production. In architecture, design and construction. But the basic idea is the same everywhere. Think first, then do. A project begins with a vision that is, at best, a vague image of the glorious thing the project will become. Planning is pushing the vision to the point where it is sufficiently researched, analyzed, tested, and detailed that we can be confident we have a reliable roadmap of the way forward. Most planning is done with computers, paper, and physical models, meaning that planning is relatively cheap and safe. Barring other time pressures, it's fine for planning to be slow. Delivery is another matter. Delivery is when serious money is spent and the project becomes vulnerable as a consequence. Number 3. Projects are not goals in themselves. Projects are how goals are achieved. People don't build skyscrapers, hold conferences, develop products, or write books for their own sakes. They do these things in order to accomplish other things. Projects are often started by jumping straight to a solution, even a specific technology. That's the wrong place to begin. You want to start by asking questions and considering alternatives. At the outset, always assume that there is more to learn. Start with the most basic question of all. Why? All projects are vulnerable to unpredictable shocks, with their vulnerability growing as time passes. Number 4. In project planning, a standard tool is a flowchart that lays out from left to right what needs to be done and when, with the project concluding when the goal is achieved in the final box on the right. That simple concept is also valuable in the initial planning stages because it can help us visualize a project not as an end in itself, but as a means to an end. The goal is the box on the right. Number 5. The most common way in which thinking from right to left fails is losing sight of the right, the goal. Even Steve Jobs committed this error after insisting on the opposite, that projects have to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. But work backwards also fails when planners aren't compelled to nail down what's in that final flowchart box on the right and forced to think from right to left. Without that, it's easy to get consumed by the blizzard of details and difficulties that arise during the planning of any project, while the goal, which was only vaguely understood to begin with, fades from view. Number 6. Planning is a concept with baggage. For many, it calls to mind a passive activity. Sitting, thinking, staring into space, abstracting what you're going to do. In its more institutional form, planning is a bureaucratic exercise in which the planner writes reports, colors maps and charts, programs activities, and fills in boxes on flowcharts. Such plans often look like train schedules, but they're even less interesting. Much planning does fit that bill. And that's a problem because it's a serious mistake to treat planning as an exercise in abstract bureaucratic thought and calculation. What sets good planning apart from the rest is something completely different. It is captured by a Latin verb, experiere. Experiere means to try, to test, or to prove. It is the origin of two wonderful words in English, experiment and experience. Think of how people typically learn. We tinker. We try this. We try that. We see what works and what doesn't. We iterate. We learn. This is experimentation creating experience. Or, to use the phrase of theorists, it is experiential learning. We're good at learning by tinkering, which is fortunate, because we're terrible at getting things right the first time. Tinkering sometimes requires tenacity, and it always requires a willingness to learn from failure. I have not failed 10,000 times, Thomas Edison said. I've successfully found 10,000 ways that will not work. That wasn't hyperbole. Number 7. Planning, as I see it, is not merely sitting and thinking, much less a rule-based bureaucratic exercise of programming. It is an active process. Planning is doing, try something, see if it works, and try something else in light of what you've learned. Planning is iteration and learning before you deliver at full scale, with careful, demanding, extensive testing producing a plan that increases the odds of the delivery going smoothly and swiftly. Number 8. Think again. Understanding that your project is one of those is key to getting your forecasts right and managing your risks. As important as it is to do the slow thinking that produces excellent planning and forecasting, acting fast in delivery takes more than a strong plan. You need an equally strong team. How are diverse people and organizations with different identities and interests turned into a single a team, with everyone rowing in the same direction, toward delivery? Number 9. Repetition is the genius of modularity. It enables experimentation. If something works, you keep it in the plan. If it doesn't, you fail fast, to use the famous Silicon Valley term, and adjust the plan. You get smarter. Designs improve. Repetition also generates experience, making your performance better. This is called positive learning, as we saw earlier. Repetition rockets you up the learning curve, making each new iteration better, easier, cheaper, and faster. As the old Latin saying goes, repetitio est mater studiorum. Repetition is the mother of learning. But repetition is the mother of learning. Number 10. We all know that experience is valuable. All else being equal, an experienced carpenter is a better carpenter than an inexperienced one. It should also be obvious that in the planning and delivery of big projects, experience should be maximized whenever possible. By hiring the experienced carpenter, for example, it shouldn't be necessary to say that, but it is necessary to say it loudly and insistently, because, as we shall see, big projects routinely do not make maximum use of experience. In fact, experience is often aggressively marginalized. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, you probably will not see us again. If you have, congratulations, you are growing every day.